Hello and welcome. So this video is going to be a shop tour of the workshop so far and a little bit about what I've done so far to it, and then what I'm planning to do in the upcoming weeks, and kind of what I'm going to be using the shop for. So for a long time I've wanted my own workshop. This is now our third house that we're living in. The first house had no garage at all. And so I didn't really have anywhere good to work on projects. I did some work on my dining room table before my wife and I moved in together, but after that I got pushed to the basement, and it wasn't a really good basement either, low ceilings and dark and dreary. And then we moved, and our second house had a garage, but me being the type of person I am, I bought a injection molding machine, and it filled up almost the entire garage, and so it really wasn't practical to do anything with that space either. So just recently, my wife and I were able to purchase this piece of property, and it has a detached garage. It's got two garage doors, but it's extra deep, so it probably is closer to a 4-car garage. Width-wise, it's a little over 21 feet, 21 and a half feet or so, and lengthwise, it's 33 feet. So that's about 700 square feet worth of workspace, which is awesome because I've never had this much space to work on projects, and they've always been kind of pushed around into closets or different places. The other really nice thing is it's got 10-foot ceilings, very tall ceilings, and there's exposed joists up there for additional storage. It did not look this good when we first bought it. I'll put a picture of what it originally looked like. It wasn't terrible, but it definitely wasn't great either. So I wanted to kind of do this video series and show people, what you can do. I'm hopeful that, in a year or so, this is going to be a really nice, awesome shop that maybe other people will be jealous about. But I want to show that it didn't start out as that, right? Like most people who have those kind of shops, they didn't start that way. So I'll put a picture here and talk about the original shop. Originally, it was just a kind of dark, dreary shop that was pretty dirty. When we were looking at buying the house, this was full of the previous owner's stuff, so you couldn't even really get a good view of it. And it probably has a few things that would turn a lot of people away, or maybe make them not interested in buying it. And I'll point those out as we get going, and I'll talk about a little bit about what I plan to do to fix those so that it will be a shop that I'm happy with. So the first thing I did was clean it. Obviously, it was pretty dirty. There was a lot of old dust and stuff like that. So I borrowed a pressure washer, and I gave it a good pressure wash. I cut the power to the building so I didn't have to worry about the few outlets in here. And then I pressure washed it with a concrete cleaner degreaser. And I really focused on a quick wash of the walls, but then a big wash of the floor to really try to get it clean. And then the next thing I did is I purchased an epoxy floor system. So I just used the big box store brand. Rust-Oleum has a pretty good epoxy floor product. I used 2 boxes of it to do the whole shop. I used a 1.5 car garage and a 2.5 car garage box. That's the sizes that you can buy it in. And it was enough to do the floor in here. And I'll put a picture of what it looked like right after I did the floor. And that alone made the shop look way better. But then the next thing I did is I purchased some new lights, and I'll show the ones that I got here. These are pretty cool. Again, they're just from the big box store. The box for them is a little bit less fancy than some of the other lights that they had, but if you look at the specs, I think these are actually a really good light. So it's a three-panel LED light, and it's adjustable, dimmable. It can be hardwired or it can be screwed in, and it comes with a remote, which is something that I think is great. Good lighting is something that I have learned makes it much easier to work on projects. And then on top of that, I get optical migraines if the lights are too bright or if I look at super bright lights. So the fact that these are dimmable is really nice for me because I can adjust the lighting to suit what I'm working on. And I think also for filming projects and things, it'll be nice to be able to dim the lights or adjust them just to make video recording a little bit better. So I put those lights in, and that made a big difference. And then the next thing that I did is I put a coat of dry lock on the walls. That took me one afternoon with a buddy of mine. We painted all the walls with white dry lock. Dry lock's a special type of paint meant for concrete block walls and things like this, and it helps prevent water from coming through. It probably needs a second coat of dry lock, but I'm pretty happy with getting the first coat on for now. I didn't notice any water on the walls, but half of the workshop is actually underground. The back wall is completely underground, and then it kind of slopes towards the front. So the two side walls are half underground, which might be good. I think in the summer it's gonna keep the shop a little cooler. In the winter it'll probably keep it a little warmer, which is nice. But it does mean that there's a lot of dirt pushing on the walls, and that can lead to some issues. And it also means that you've got moisture from the ground that concrete block walls will wick up, and they're kind of porous, so the water can come through it. There is a French drain system installed, and so that water should be draining from behind the walls and running out, and that seems to be working well. But I figured a coat of dry lock would be good to get the walls nice and brighter to help with the light, right? Just the epoxy floor and the white walls made it seem so much brighter in here, which makes it more comfortable to work in. And then hopefully it also seals a little bit of that water so that maybe the relative humidity is lower, which would keep my tools from rusting or things like that. So I'll give you kind of a little bit of rundown of what I've got in the shop right now. It's not a lot yet. I just started moving my tools in, but I've got a small drill press right there on a stand. And I'll give you, I've got a workbench, well, I've got a folding table right now to start with. So I've got folding table with some cool stuff. Some of my projects I already brought over. So I've got some photography stuff, which I'm gonna use for recording videos. Got some 3D printed Nerf guns, which are pretty cool, and I'll be working on those. Got a couple quadcopter things, so I've got a DJI Tello, which is a lot of fun. Hopefully we'll get some drone footage of the outside of the shop and put that on there. I've got a custom quadcopter that I started building, and I've only flown a couple times. And then I got a new controller for that. So I've got this, the DJI NASA multi-rotor controller, which is gonna be a project to put on that and get going. And then to control that, I've got a Tyrannus controller. We've got some other cool projects that I want to do with that. I've got a 3D printed RC car, which I've been working on for a while, and that'll be fun. And then we've got a lot of other fun projects that I'm going to be doing in the shop. So I'll give you a little bit of a tour. I'm going to switch the camera and go from there. All right, so I'll give you a little bit of a tour around the shop and point out some of the problem areas and some of the things that need some work, but I'm not afraid of a little bit of work, so that's okay. So the shop has the floor split into 6 panels, which is nice. There's 2 floor drains in the middle, and for the most part, the water runs out the front of the shop or into the middle to go down the drains. There's a couple low spots towards the back of the shop, so I'll have to be aware of that. Anytime you have a shop, it's always good to, when it's empty, to see where the water flows to, and then that'll let you know what you need to worry about. I've been in a lot of shops where we found out the floor did not slope the direction you wanted when you had a pipe break or a machine dump fluid everywhere. And so it's nice to know that ahead of time and maybe plan accordingly. So for me, I'm gonna move an injection molding machine in here, and it's got a whole bunch of hydraulic fluid. And so knowing where that floor slope is, so I can position it in a way that if something bad happens, I know where the hydraulic fluid's gonna go. I also, on this side, there's a couple blocks that have lifted up, and so there's some cracks there. And if we look at the very top, there's a block right there that has completely come loose, so I'm gonna have to fix that. Walking around the shop, this first section is gonna probably be where the injection molding machine's gonna be. This second section, I'm gonna mount some tool holding. I'm gonna do a build video for a wall-mounted tool rack. This front section by the garage door, I've got a laser saw that I built with some friends. And so we're gonna get this set up and running. I wanna put it by the door because it'll make it easy to vent the exhaust out initially before I get it set up with a exhaust through the ceiling. But this one needs a table or some custom stand built so that we can get it set up. And it hasn't been run in 3 or 4 years, so it's gonna need a little bit of work. This other front section by the side door, I'm gonna leave fairly open with space because I wanna be able to pull a car in if I need to. I've got a Jeep that I'm working on rebuilding, and that should be a fun project to document. And so I wanna be able to drive it in to work on it, maybe in the winter, or sometimes where the weather's just not great. There is a nice concrete slab outside these doors, so I can do some work out there, weather permitting. But again, I've got the door here, so I want to keep this area somewhat open to be able to bring maybe tools or equipment in, big sheet goods or something like that. Middle section here, I'm planning on setting up another workbench. Actually, that's the first thing that I need a lot of, is I need a bunch of workbenches to try to set things up. And then in this back corner right now, I have my trailer, but that'll probably get moved out as soon as I need the space. And then this back corner, I'm thinking about setting up a workbench, maybe my electronics workbench, and then maybe also a place where I can have the camera set to record. I think if I position the camera kind of in this back corner, then we can get a pretty good view of most of the shop while I'm doing some talking head video or just explaining some of the projects I'm working on. So that's the overall. I'll give you some of the things that are not so great about the shop. I already showed you the one block that is loose, but a couple more blocks here, and even bigger section here, and then finally a very big section here, which is gonna take some work to fix. So I think that's something that a lot of people would have looked at and said, no way I'm gonna buy this shop, the wall's falling down. I did a little bit of looking at it. I think I can fix those blocks that are not set, and I put a level on the bottom half of the wall, and while it's not perfectly level, it's pretty close, so I think we just need to reset the top blocks, but I'll keep an eye on it, make sure that there isn't any further movement. I just am not in a position where I can buy a perfect shop from day one. The garage doors also have a fair bit of work that needs done on them. You can see this one's rotting out, and there's a pretty big hole there. And at some point, I want to put in a ceiling of some kind. This is nice that I have access to the exposed joists, but there's actually an access door. Let's see if I can show you. Might be a little tough to see, but there's an access door right up on this back side. And since this wall is underground, that's actually pretty close to ground level outside. So my plan is to put in a drop ceiling and then possibly blown in insulation, and then still have access to it from the back door, and then be able to come through the top, use that for storage of some things. It's not a ton of space up there, but there is some that I can use for storage, which would be nice. And then obviously there's not a lot of power in the shop right now. The shop's getting power from the house. It's got one circuit run over here. So that's a 20 amp circuit for 110. Doesn't give me a ton of power to work with. There is 5 of these columns in the shop, and each column has 1 outlet on it. So I've got 5 outlets, or 5 sets of outlets. Each outlet has 2 receptacles. So not a ton of power, but enough to get me going. The lights are on that same power circuit, so you're sharing whatever tools I'm running with running the lights. So 20 amps isn't really a ton. It's plenty to get me going, but at some point I'm gonna probably install a separate electrical service and maybe a sub panel or something along those lines to really get more power in here. When I get the injection molding machine in and start trying to run that, it's gonna need a lot more power than they can do here. I've got an air compressor as well over there. Not a huge one, but pretty good size. It's a 20 gallon. So I'll probably plumb that for being able to run some compressed air lines around the shop. And generally just keep making it bigger and better and see where we go. So I wanted to just document the process along the way. Maybe you guys will think it's interesting. Maybe some of you guys out there are thinking about setting up your own shop, and you can learn from my experiences or my mistakes, and it'll help you. So if you're interested and follow along, hit that subscribe button and you'll get notified when I post new videos. I'm going to try to do a video, regular videos to show progress. So I think that'll be fun. And then we're going to do some one-day build videos and some other build videos on some of the projects that are just taking longer than doing it one day. So I think there's a lot of cool stuff I'll be doing here, and I want to share it with you guys. All right, next time.